getting back to Black Panther, because obviously it's okay, Victor Fontaine. I see in the live chat. It's okay. It's okay. Trust me. As someone with ADHD, I understand what it's like to be distracted. It happens to me. But anyway, Black Panther, let's talk about these numbers because I think it's important for us to be accurate with them, all right? So the weekend numbers, all right, the weekend numbers for the third week of its release, projected to make $40.4 million by the end of the holiday weekend, expected to have made $58.4 million, which is looking at an effective drop of around 39% from the previous weekend. That is not a terrible number. That is a pretty good hold. That is a pretty good drop there. It's also looking like the total domestic is going to be around $360.9 million. So this film is well on its way to passing $400 million likely by the end of the fourth weekend. And this again gets back to what we were saying previously. So let's go ahead and go back to the box, the week 1 to week 2 drop-offs for the film, right? It was 63%. Remember, everyone was coming out with those videos. I warned people about this on the Salty Saturday stream. If you were hanging out in the Salty Saturday stream, I appreciate y'all being over there. Shout out to the Salty Nerd Podcast. We were talking about this. This question came up, and everyone was like, oh my gosh, but its Friday to Friday number was a 79% plus drop. And it's like, don't let that fool you. Of course the number is high. It's always high for these superhero movies. It's always high Friday to Friday because the Friday numbers from the first weekend include the Thursday numbers, the Thursday premiere numbers, which is usually a pretty decent portion. And so you're going to see a much higher drop. And what happened? Saturday and Sunday, it caught back up and it ended up being a 63% drop. I saw some other videos coming out saying that this is one of the worst drops in history of MCU. Again, not really. When you look at the big budget films, even beyond the MCU, a 63% drop is definitely not the worst. And it's definitely normal for a film of this caliber, and by caliber, I don't mean quality, but rather of this budget to see drops like this. Right? This is not out of line. This is not out of left field. In addition to this, it had incredibly strong and much stronger than expected holds internationally. In fact, it performed better internationally than the other MCU films that come out this year, and even including doing better in like-for-like markets than other films that actually did quite better as well. So we have that factor for one, right? The weekend number ended up not being really falling off the charts all that much. You then add on to that, we have the Monday numbers dropping 64% from the previous day, $7 million on Monday. So again, adding more and more. We're looking at probably getting Tuesdays tend to be a little bit higher because it is usually cheaper tickets on Tuesday. So we're probably going to see $7 to $10 million on Tuesday. Every other day, you're going to see more opportunities for the film to make more money because more and more people are going to be off. And even though the word of mouth on this film is not spectacular, there's still no denial that this film is still doing well. It is still doing well, better than what I think a lot of us would have expected. Right now, it's at $552 million worldwide. Now, if we go back to this projected number, right? The projected number for the domestic is 360.9. All right? Right now, 294 versus 258 internationally. If this film then gets to that 360 number, we can assume then that the film internationally will also cross $300 million. So this movie is going to be well over $600 million by the end of next weekend. You actually could see this film pushing to $700 million by the end of next weekend. That's already putting it within $50 million of Thor: Love and Thunder, and that's after only 3 weeks. You see now why not only is Thor: Love and Thunder likely going to easily fall to this movie, but also why I'm putting this film somewhere between it and Doctor Strange. And the reason why that's significant is because when we saw Thor: Love and Thunder, when we saw the opening weekend for that film, and when we saw the drop-offs for that movie, and we saw the very mixed word of mouth, we had this understanding that, it seems to be indicating that this is again showing that drop-off, showing that incredible decline within the MCU. And I think that that's absolutely true, and that's absolutely there. But what we're seeing with Wakanda Forever, and remember, I warned people, I told people, don't sleep on the domestic for this film. Because right now, this film, up against, and again, I've been putting these up together, putting these up against each other for a while, Black Panther 2 versus Doctor Strange versus Thor: Love and Thunder. This film, right, as of this weekend, is now pacing ahead in total daily numbers. Right? 7 million on the second Monday versus 4 million for Doctor Strange. That means the total domestic at the same point in its release, 294. Where was Doctor Strange? 297. What did I say this past weekend in my box office breakdown? Do not be surprised if Black Panther outpaces and catches up to and surpasses Doctor Strange by the end of this week. It's looking like before even the full holidays are in effect, that probably will happen. Maybe when we get the Tuesday numbers, it will actually have officially surpassed the number. Regardless of that, this film right now is pacing to catch up and surpass the total number that was reached by, or rather the same number and the number at the same time in its release as Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange ended its run domestically at 411. If the film continues to track ahead, that's the reason why I'm projecting a domestic end result of 450 to 500 is absolutely within the realm of possibility. Just again, based off of history, based off of the tracking, based off of the comparisons of, again, at the same time in history. So you have that going for it. You also have the film doing better internationally in certain markets than even that of Doctor Strange. And so that's why some are saying, hey, maybe it'll actually do better there than what had originally been expected. So if we see the film get close to 450, 500 domestic, and then we see the film get somewhere close to 400 million international, which I think is likely, that's why I've been saying this film likely going to be somewhere between 8 and 900 million. Right? I personally think somewhere between 800 and 850. Hopefully now you can see why I think that's going to be the case. Again, the fact is it's going to be probably within $50 million of where Thor: Love and Thunder was at the end of its release after just 3 weeks. So that should already show you why I'm thinking the film is going to be closer to 800 million and possibly even 850. But also why even 900 is within the realm of possibility. It's within spitting distance. Now, just how high does it go? How much higher than 800? How much, if it gets to 900, how much higher than 900 does it get? I don't know. That's going to be that long-term question, right? That long-term lay question. And there is still no denying the fact that this film is not doing nearly as well historically in the total box office. Again, that is absolutely true. And I think some people are looking at this number here and are looking at the other MCU film numbers, which I think is completely valid to bring up. But again, they are forgetting the fact that this film is still doing better than, or is tracking better in many markets and in many ways than the two other MCU films to come out this year. And this is after the film being 2.5 hours of boredom and a terrible film to boot. So what this tells us is that the MCU stands are still strong. The MCU stands are continuing to show up for this movie and will continue to show up for almost any MCU movie. What's interesting about the MCU stands is that they don't love every MCU film the same. If you look at the history of Ant-Man, especially in comparison to other films, Ant-Man has always been, historically, one of the lowest earners, one of the lowest box office returns for MCU titles. So that's a big question. The next major film release from them, I believe, is going to be Ant-Man 3. How much money does that film make? Does that film even make money? Does that film possibly even lose money in the quote-unquote post-COVID era? I think we're looking at the reasons as to why that is still possible. So again, what I'm saying is that Black Panther is doing a lot better than what people are trying to say it's doing. I think there's a lot of people who are putting the doom and gloom on this movie specifically, and I think that they don't really have a lot of ground to stand on. If we're talking about the MCU in a general sense, there's a little bit more to that. There's definitely a little bit more to be said when it comes to that. But when it comes to this film, as I said, second Monday, it's within 3 million of where Doctor Strange was. It's pacing ahead. Thanksgiving is this week. It's going to make big numbers there. Some people in the comments have said, I don't think it's going to make as big numbers as you think. And again, I just look to right now the projections, which, again, are not always accurate. But for this movie, they've been tracking, second week, third week, or rather the first and second week, they tracked pretty well and have been tracking well otherwise. Right now, projecting a 39% drop, 40.4 million for the 3-day weekend, 5-day weekend, right, including Thanksgiving holiday, 58.4, bringing the domestic total to 360. The other thing that I was hearing a lot about was saying, World Cup is going to create a lot of competition. And again, I looked to this past weekend, which saw strong numbers internationally. I'm not denying that World Cup is not going to have some impact on the movies and not going to have some impact on those international numbers. But to try and say that that's like a death knell for the film right now, as of the recording of this video, there is, again, there isn't much data there to suggest or to support that. And now for a huge special shout out to all of my November Patreon Subscribe Star and Locals members at the Keeper of the Bifrost level and above. Starting off with Patreon with Father Luca Illich. Thank you very much, Father. Garrett Searles, Jaimir Irie Hymason, Joe Horn, Jonathan Carney, Laura, The Modern Major General Story, Orange Hat Reviews, who you can check out on YouTube at his channel, Orange Hat Reviews, Rosetta Allen, who also has a YouTube channel that you can check out at Eagle Writer, and Miss Martin Muses, who also has a YouTube channel, Miss Martin Muses, and of course the amazing Empress of the Universe, Tina B, who you can check out at her YouTube channel, Tina B, where she hosts the show with Stephanie B, one of my mods, and one of my Valkyrie, called Soup to Nuts. Check out Soup to Nuts, and it premieres pretty much every Friday. So again, shout out to all of my Patreon people, also to all my Subscribe Star people, starting off with Matt317. Check him out on Twitch at Matt317. The R, Fast Reaction, Mr. Roy, J-Rod, the Beer Guru, and ZK Man. And ZK Man, you can check out over at xtheboundaries.co to follow him as he starts his podcast and also for many of his musical musings as well. Check him out. Very, very talented guy. And then lastly, my locals peeps. We got Miss Minnesota Hockey Fan. How about a hockey player? UAB Mad Dog, Mike Jackson for the win. J.H. Schwalbach, Brett D90, and the amazing lawyer, Robert Barnes. Thank you all so very much for supporting me. And if you want your name shouted out at the end of every live stream and video, go ahead and check out the top link in the video description below where you get access to that. Also, you get access to special things like giveaways and also exclusive podcasts that I do with John the Flickpick Flickinger and other guests throughout the month of November and in the previous and the months to follow as well. And again, if any of that sounds interesting to you, especially the 4K giveaways, Steelbook giveaways, some of them that I have to give away this month are films like Starship Troopers on 4K Steelbook, Top Gun Maverick on 4K Steelbook, amongst many others. If that sounds interesting to you, check out the link and follow the instructions down below. Anyway, you guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless.